we know that narcissistic abuse or emotionally unavailable parents can create trauma in their children. Today, I just want to focus on the reality that unhealed CPTSD can cause enmeshment trauma. And this is something that as parents, you have to understand whether you're in a relationship that's toxic or not. Either scenario can cause enmeshment trauma. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so you think about a child that's growing up with a parent that is suffering from narcissistic abuse or complex PTSD. And unfortunately, they go hand in hand, right? People that are suffering from narcissistic abuse tend to develop complex PTSD. I'm not diagnosing anybody, but it just seems to be something that happens a lot. Well, somebody that has CPTSD, one of the things that they battle is emotional dysregulation, right? If you've been in a relationship where your emotions have just been like a rubber band, stretched and pulled into so many different directions, then it's understandable that you would have emotional dysregulation. If you've been with somebody that's constantly provoking you to fight or flight, who punishes you when you're happy, who changes the rules all the time so that you're walking on eggshells, that you never know what's going to happen. What happens, well, there's a lot that happens, but I just want to focus on how it makes you feel emotionally. Okay? People that are in those circumstances wind up either in complete depression or a constant state of anxiety, or worse, just like flinging back and forth between those two emotions. So whether you're with the person that's causing that emotional dysregulation or you leave, if you're still in that state where you don't feel grounded in self, where you're highly triggered, where you are still suffering with the depression and the anxiety, and you have children, especially young children, they see that dysregulation and it creates a feeling of unsafety inside of them. Okay, so think about it. Their parent is supposed to keep them alive, right? They need their parent for survival. A child, an elementary age child and younger, can't take care of themselves, can't feed themselves, can't emotionally care for their needs. They don't have the emotional maturity or intelligence to do that. And then to see their parent going through all of these emotions, especially if they see you depressed a lot or they see you sad a lot, it makes them feel unsafe. They start to see mom or dad is, falling apart. Who's going to take care of me? Now that thought isn't as clear in their mind, but it's more like a feeling, right? They just feel unsafe. So what happens is, you have to understand, children, when they say children are resilient, I'm not a big, okay, it's true, and I like it to a degree, but at some point, there are times when what they call resilience is a child's brain rewiring because of trauma. Now, I guess that's a good thing because it helps them to deal with it, but it's really quite damaging. But anyway, what happens is the child's brain, as a survival skill, starts to realize or feel unsafe. And so to cope with that feeling of unsafety, the child starts thinking, well, if I can fix mom, if I can be there for mom or dad, if I can help mom or dad feel better, I'm going to do, fix, be whatever mom or dad wants, because then I'll be safe. So narcissistic abuse causes a child to think the same thing, but it's for a different reason, right? I have to do, think, be, or feel what narcissistic mom or dad needs or says they want, otherwise I'm not safe. And that lack of safety is due to the emotional abuse. Well, in this case, I need to do, be, think, or feel whatever mom or dad that's emotionally fragile needs so that they can care for me. because otherwise I'm not safe. So the reason I'm making this video is because yes, one comes from abuse and one doesn't, but we have to realize that it creates the same wound in a child. So what happens is, as that child is growing up, or when that child becomes an adult, they carry that same wound. And in this case, that wound is all about feeling responsible for someone else's emotional state, right? So there are no emotional boundaries. The child in childhood felt they needed to do something to be safe. They needed to care for their parents' emotions. So if the parent was so emotionally distraught that the child was seeing it a lot, then there was an emotional enmeshment, whether it was intentional or not. And the danger of that is that now that child, if they didn't learn emotional boundaries in childhood, the likelihood is that they don't have emotional boundaries in adulthood. And we all know the consequences of what happens when you don't have emotional boundaries. If your emotional boundaries or lack of emotional boundaries make you feel responsible for someone else's feelings, well, guess what you're going to attract? You're going to attract somebody that makes you feel responsible for their feelings. And it's like they become narcissistic magnets. So the reason I'm putting this video together is because there is a tremendous need for people that have unhealed CPTSD, for people that have been through narcissistic abuse, to go from that state of dysregulation, living unconscious, playing out those patterns that unfortunately were common in maybe your adult, maybe your childhood, and then they got carried out in your adult relationships as well. We have to stop that. We have to heal so that it doesn't become generational. There's nothing worse than coming out of narcissistic abuse, coming out of emotional abuse, and then watching your child grow up and choose people that bring it back into your life. So it's so important to start putting the focus on self. It's so important to start going from unconscious to conscious so that you can heal the wounds that came about due to narcissistic abuse, and then you can help your children to become healthy adults. An unconscious, unhealed parent cannot teach a child to be conscious and healed. In my face-to-face coaching, so many parents come to me and they'll say, Michele, I just want to help my kids. How can I best help my kids? And I always tell them, the more conscious you become, the more healed you become, along with obviously tools that they can put into place at the moment, but it's with their healing that they will most be able to benefit their children. So I highly encourage you, if you have been healing from narcissistic abuse or complex PTSD, look at your healing journey. If you're not shifting, if you're not healing in a way that you feel that is helping you to move forward, there are other resources available. Sometimes listening to the videos is enough, but sometimes more is needed. So make sure you check out the links in my description box, or find something that resonates with you so that you can do the inner work and so that you can help your children have emotional boundaries and grow up to be healthy, autonomous individuals.